Inflation has eased from its highs. That's very good news.
And that's very good news for you too. Federal Reserve holds policy steady, but indicates more dovish 2024. Fed leaves rates unchanged and signals 3 cuts next year. We're a few days away from the first ARK Bitcoin spot ETF potential approval. We're seeing institutional adoption. Jerome Powell in the Federal Reserve's meeting that happened Wednesday, December 13th, are signaling and guiding the crypto markets to a super bullish 2024, 2025, and 2026 rally.
Today we decided to leave our policy interest rate unchanged. We anticipate that the process of getting inflation all the way to 2% will take some time.
They don't plan on raising interest rates anytime soon, and the longer it takes them to lower interest rates, the longer and stronger crypto will rally.
The median participant projects that the appropriate level of the federal funds rate will be 4.6% at the end of 2024, 3.6% at the end of 2025, and 2.9% at the end of 2026.
They will lower interest rates to 2.9% by the end of 2026. We're currently standing between 5.25 and 5.5%. We're going to see a slow decline for the next 3 years. And I'm hearing is Bitcoin will rally for the next 3 years.
I think the Fed's candid pivot towards the fact that it will be adjusting monetary policy was very important. Now that's behind us. This acknowledgement that inflation has been falling faster than initially anticipated is a very good development. Now the Fed will have to calibrate how rapidly and how much it cuts rates. But that first step is behind us, which is a good thing. It's a realignment with the reality of today's economy.
The acknowledgement of a shift happening is real. The dovish forecast is positive for the complete crypto market. Previously, the Federal Reserve was projecting rates to be at around 5.1% by the end of 2024. Now they're expecting for them to be at around 4.6%. And there's a lot of speculation that it will be much more than that by the end of 2024.
We remain committed to bringing inflation back down to our 2% goal and to keeping longer-term inflation expectations well anchored.
Well, let's connect the dots. The Federal Reserve expecting to begin cutting interest rates next year. The Fed releasing its updated forecast and its summary of economic projections, including its dot plot, which maps out policymakers' expectations for where interest rates could be headed in the future. Officials signaling in those projections that the Fed's inflation battle may not require another rate hike in the new year, penciling in 3 rate cuts, and they now see inflation falling to 2.4% in 2024.
29 days to the last deadline for SEC to decide on ARK Bitcoin spot ETF. Between now and then, SEC will likely approve all or most of the Bitcoin spot applications. These were some of the first applications, the ARK Bitcoin spot ETF. And when the SEC does decide to approve one of these ETFs, they have to be unbiased and approve several of them at the same time. We could just be days away from an approval. Meanwhile, Bitcoin is up 149% year to date, and the amount of Bitcoin that didn't move in 1 year reached at all-time highs, differently both in 2017 and 2022. While the price was appreciating, the amount of Bitcoin held for more than 1 year was decreasing. Another reason why the next bull run will be different. Another reason why the next bull run will go down in the history books from the main door. What is different from this rally, aside from all the many other points I've covered so far, we're seeing Bitcoin being held as Bitcoin rallies. Previously, we would see people selling off their Bitcoin, locking in profits as Bitcoin rallied. We're going to have an immense supply decrease and an immense supply and demand if people continue to hold, which in return will explode the value of Bitcoin. If you're finding this video of any value, make sure to like, follow, subscribe, and share. These videos take me several days to put together, and your support will be greatly appreciated.
For months, we saw Bitcoin trade in a tight range, unable to surpass the $32,000 level. And now we're seeing Bitcoin hit fresh highs for the year, surpassing $44,000. So what's changed?
Well, obviously price goes up because there's more buyers and sellers in the market. And so the question becomes, why are people buying Bitcoin? And I think that it's a confluence of things. First of all, there's speculation around the Bitcoin ETF. As we get closer and closer to these kind of early January dates, I think people are just saying, look, there's higher probability that it's going to get approved. And if it gets approved, they believe the price is going to go up. So they want to own it before the approval. And, pretty self-explanatory.
Why is crypto bouncing back? This was my answer: because institutional adoption of cryptocurrencies has been rapidly gaining momentum, including recent multiple SEC applications for BTC ETFs. Institutions like BlackRock, Grayscale, WisdomTree, Invesco, VanEck, Bitwise, Fidelity, Tesla, MicroStrategy, and PayPal have shown serious interest in cryptocurrencies, purchasing significant amounts in Bitcoin, and also integrating digital assets into their services. This increased institutional involvement can and will instill more confidence in the market. I would say that this is certainly one of the main reasons. We have all the big players, the people who drive the money worldwide, fighting for Bitcoin ETFs and Ethereum ETFs that will commercially bring cryptocurrencies to the masses and making it accessible to anyone.
Then if you go and you look at things in the macro environment, markets are forward looking. And so what people are anticipating is someone may say to themselves, okay, if we've had this kind of quantitative tightening, we've had interest rates rise at the fastest rate in history, we've been selling off assets off of the Federal Reserve's balance sheet, that's going to change at some point, right? If they continue to keep the economy tight, they're going to push us into a recession. And so when there is a return to quantitative easing, the thought process is that many assets, including Bitcoin, will rise very rapidly. And so you don't wait for them to return to loose monetary policy and then buy the assets. You want to buy it right before they return. And if you go and you look, Bill Ackman has this bet that he thinks interest rates are going to get cut in Q1. The market is pricing in 100% probability of an interest rate cut by the end of Q2. I think there's a lot of folks who just say, look, I'm not going to wait. I'm just going to go ahead and start buying now. And so that's providing some pressure.
People like Bill Ackman are putting big bets that interest rates will start lowering as soon as January. If the Federal Reserve starts cutting interest rates January and we get a ETF approval January, we're going to have an explosion. And as stated in my previous video, why people are poor if they don't believe in crypto, if you wait for all these things to actually happen, you're going to be behind and you're going to leave a lot of money on the table. This is why it's important to pay attention to what is happening, seeing the shift and the wave forming so that you can take the ride.
There's a third thing that I think is pretty interesting. I recently was talking to somebody over at CoinFund, David Pacman, who leads their investment team, and he showed me a chart that essentially there's been 3 major crypto exchange CEOs who have left or quit or been fired from their role. We have Arthur Hayes, we have Sam Bankman-Fried, and then we have CZ. After every single one of those, the market rallied pretty aggressively very shortly after. And the thought process being that whether it is perceived risk or actual risk, the market enjoys certainty. And so whenever there is some degree of certainty that's brought into the market, then people will allocate capital and obviously the price will go up. And so regardless of kind of what the actual reason for the price going up, I don't think you can point at one thing, but what we do see is that capital is flowing into the market. When you add in the fact that 70% of all Bitcoin circulation hasn't moved in a year, illiquid market, capital flowing in, price has to go up to accommodate everyone. And I think that it's only getting started right now.
The Bitcoin plan is developing. We saw big names being prosecuted. We're seeing regulators stepping in. We're seeing big money stepping in after they started cleaning house. Sam Bankman-Fried, ZZ from Binance, and a few other big name exchanges are being brought into the spotlight by big officials. They're basically paving the crypto roads from the dirt roads. And shortly after, you're starting to see big institutional buys, you're starting to see big institutional adoption, and you're seeing all these ETF filings.
So do you think the positive momentum will continue into 2024? Do you think we'll continue to see this rally?
Yeah, I mean, my message right now and why I've been doing so much media is just to explain to people, look, Bitcoin's bull market has begun. And when you look at these market cycles, historically they've been kind of 4-year market cycles in between these Bitcoin halvings. And so usually what will end up happening is you'll get about 2.5 to 3 years from the bottom of the last bear market to the top of the next bull market. And then you'll get about a year, year and a half market correction. And so historically that has been hundreds of % up, and then you get about an 80% drawdown. Now, the next bull market and bear market, I don't know if it's hundreds of percent or tens of percent. I don't know if the drawdown is 30% or 80%, but definitely it is a very strong indicator that we now have bottomed out of the last bear market. The bull market has begun. And the question now on everyone's mind is, how high will Bitcoin go in this bull market?
Bitcoin is having early 2024, and historically, every Bitcoin halving event is followed by a 2-year rally. Now, leave that fresh in your minds. The Federal Reserve just stated that they will be lowering interest rates for the next 3 years. You have dual catalysts projecting a rally in markets for the next 2 to 3 years. If you're not bullish for crypto, I don't know what else to say. There are multiple catalysts and everything happening in front of our eyes, how this wave of value is coming. These are very exciting times, although it's been tough for a lot of us. These are the downturns that create opportunities and massive rallies. People will become millionaires and billionaires off these rallies.